A is for Alcoholic is a program about recovery. My name is John and I'm an alcoholic.
And my name is Jerry and I'm an alcoholic.
Join us as we go through the alphabet of alcoholism one letter at a time.
All right. Welcome back to A is for Alcoholic. Today, I want to give out a little bit of a trigger warning to anybody because we're going to talk about politics, and I don't think there's any way to get around it. I think that, this came up in the spring, in early June, when the George Floyd protests broke out, and I know that Jerry and I spent a couple episodes talking about things because it's just, the recovery and alcoholism doesn't happen in a vacuum, right?
Right.
And we're joined today by our good friend Coda. Thanks for coming on short notice and doing this, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. No problem at all.
And he called me earlier, and we had an interesting conversation, and something occurred to me, and I do want to. How do I want to preface this? Well, I want to say this, like, a lot of my issues with alcoholism and with addiction, I think stem from, not all of them, but stem from my childhood and from my father. My father's name is Donald, and he's from New Jersey. So he's always kind of had this sort of faint East Coast Jersey accent, and I've talked a lot about the abuse, and you could even say the authoritarian style parenting that I lived under for so many years. And so for somebody to be an abusive, aggressive asshole from the East Coast, from New York, named Donald, I kind of was biased in the beginning. I was never a fan of Mr. Trump's. But
I forgot all that. Jeez.
Yeah, me too, actually. The minute you say your dad's name, I was like, that's right.
Forgot about that. Man.
So there's a lot of parallels. So, like, anybody who's ever had the name Donald has really had to prove themselves to me as a good person. And I know that that's maybe unfair, but it's just kind of stuck in my craw. But, Coda and I were talking earlier about Trump and losing the election and where it's put him now. And I don't really want to sit here. I mean, you guys say whatever you want. I mean, I think that we can all collectively say fuck Donald Trump, and that's just how we feel. Say it if you
like 5 Patreon followers right there, dude.
Yeah, no, that's totally valid. I mean, I guess where we started off our conversation, where this kind of led to was like, how are you feeling about things? And I think both you and I, John, were just a lot of relief, like a big sigh of relief, like this collective. And I feel like what you're seeing on TV and just what I'm feeling, is just this, especially after how long it took and stuff. Like, me and John were talking, and I don't know about how it was for you, Jerry, but like, Tuesday night, man, when I went to bed, I had trouble getting to sleep, and I was I was super bummed out. Like, and then, when I woke up Wednesday morning, I just, it's such a dreadful feeling because I thought it was over. I thought it was, another 4 years of Donald Trump, and I was disappointed, and but it was a deeper disappointment than 4 years ago. It was kind of like this just really dreadful feeling, sort of like a panicky sort of feeling. And, we've all talked about our shared kind of, moments of panic, especially, in dealing with going through, recovery and just process of getting sober and stuff like that. But then where we kind of led to was, John, you were telling me about the John Mulaney and how he made this analogy of Trump being the horse in the hospital. And John, you should kind of pick it up from there, because it really leads into where we're going with this whole thing.
Somebody have the TV on back there?
Oh, geez, yeah, I do, man. I'm sorry.
It's got like fucking Joe Mathis going on in the background.
It was Mad Max, dude, in Fury Road. Sorry about that, guys.
That's all right.
That's okay. I was like, what the fuck is that noise? So it was the horse in the hospital, and our conversation kind of led to this idea that I think we can all agree on, is that there's some messages with this man that have led to where he's at today, and that there's just been this huge amount of destruction, and given this power, he's been able to cause so much chaos and spread so much doubt and misinformation into the minds of people. And the thing is, and what Coda said was this idea that he became addicted to fame. And what you're seeing now, like when you've seen some of this stuff, and I'm not asking anybody to have any sympathy or pity for the man here, but I'm trying to talk a little more specifically about that addiction to fame. And now where it's like, oh, this is what I'm seeing is withdrawals. You know what I mean, Jerry? Like,
this the behavior that the kind of course that he's on right now is just like this. I mean, I've experienced it before, where just like you have this period of panic and rage, and everything is just, I mean, the things that Donald Trump is exhibiting right now, they're not just, I mean, they're not regular behavior for anybody in his position, being the president or whatever. And he doesn't want to, acknowledge the fact that he just lost the race, and all of this panic and rage is turned into, it's they're stealing it from me. It's like these classic symptoms, or these classic markers of somebody who's going through the stages of withdrawal. There's anger, depression, this paranoia, it's like it's I don't know. And John and I were talking about how, a lot of his followers seem like they wear the paraphernalia, they fly the flags, and they're kind of like these, the WWE wrestler fans. And then I made the point that, like, dude, he came from wrestling. That, like, he started out, he got his first taste of celebrity and fame because of the WWE.
Yeah.
Like, that's where he started out in television. That's where he started out in the media, the celebrity thing. Like, he got his first hit of celebrity from the WWE and Vince McMahon.
Dude. That's
and
like that.
He became he became an addict. He became addicted to it. And now what you're seeing is a man who's just completely in the thrall of his addiction to celebrity and fame.
Yeah.
And the behavior that you're seeing now with the tweets and the denial really is classic addiction behavior, is classic withdrawal behavior, because he knows his source is imminently going to get cut off. Like his main line is going to get cut off. Like, he may retain, like John, you were saying, like, this guy can go around and be, he can get on, he could start his own network, really. I mean, he could become, a media guy like any televangelist or any of the podcasters or media outlets like the Ben Shapiro's or he could be twice as big as any of those guys. He's got a built-in following of, 70 million people, right? I mean, but his main line, the reason why everybody listens to him is the presidency. And so that's that being pulled from him, he's exhibiting these classic symptoms of withdrawal. And it's really, they're like, John, you were saying, your higher self, and I do too. I feel for the guy, like as an addict, as somebody who's experienced that, I sort of feel for him. However, like, that's no reason why he needs to be softballed and coddled through this process. He needs the tough love kind of thing, which is like, you need to come to an acceptance part here, because it's over. Like, that part is over.
Yeah. He needs like the Train Spotting version where they just lock the door and he sees the baby crawling across the ceiling. You know what I mean?
Hey, I've done that. That's no fun.
Know. And I've been thinking about this. You bring up a really good point about the WWE thing earlier, and it's like almost like with every alcoholic and addict I know, you never start off with the good shit. You always start off with the garbage. Do you know what I mean? So like him getting that first taste of fame and that first high is like just fucking smoking meth. They're like right out the gate, the dirty low,
the dirty
shit
stuff.
Yeah, not the good shit you get from, that guy that hangs out at the bar from the cartel,
Or, it's like throwing up Mad Dog 2020 in the park when you're 16.
Yes, exactly.
This is great. I should do this again.
Right. And then, 10 years later, you're working in this really highfalutin bar and you're drinking, $150 of bottles of tequila after work, after hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all been there now, haven't we?
How
have you felt the last week, Jerry, with the election and stuff?
In hindsight, I don't think I've had more panic attacks than I have in the past year. Like, I've been so familiar with anxiety of the past year with the elections, the fucking riots, the fucking fires, the fucking COVID. Like my button's been pushed at least once a week hard, where I have to like go for a fucking walk, dude, or sit in my garage. Like, I'll just sit in my garage. And yeah, man, election night was wild. All the votes started coming in. I was like, here we go. I felt like I had PTSD, dude. And you know what I'm saying? And Daddy was coming home drunk. Daddy was coming home drunk again. Like, he had a rough day at work. You know what I'm saying? So it was rough, dude. And like Megan, she's interested, but she's on the phone with like her best friend, and they're laughing because her best friend's husband is also fucking pitching a fit about how shitty it's looking. And I just looked at her and I was just like, it's never fucking going away, Megan. We're gonna have to fucking go out in astronaut suits. And I just stormed out in the garage. I sat there, and man, I didn't want to drink though. You know what I wanted a cigarette. I didn't want to drink.
Oh,
like,
dude.
I never was like, yo, I want a fucking bourbon. I was sitting there in the garage, my vape, just pulling on thing as hard as fuck, going, man, I wish I had a fucking cigarette right now.
I still have, and I shouldn't even, admit this, but I have a pack of Parliaments. It's like a little like doomsday kind of like kit, because I still haven't let that go. And I was thinking the same thing. I woke up on Wednesday morning and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna smoke like half that pack. I'm just gonna sit down and start smoking. And I didn't, but like I totally crossed my mind. I was like, man, I really want a fucking cigarette right now.
And that's that. I think that too is there's some of that typical bullshit addict behavior of like, I'm gonna punish myself. You know what I mean? I'm gonna do something bad to somebody so I can feel it, and that'll show him or her or whatever. And like by smoking or drinking, and yeah, I didn't feel the urge to drink. I was just like, man, she's just fucking let it be done.
Yeah.
But I just love this idea of the fact that, and I think our conversation earlier, and we've heard this talked about many times about him being a narcissist, and I don't know if anybody else has gotten to know the definition of that term and gotten to realize it more than ever now because talking about him. Right. And one of the things that you come to learn is that he did not come from a loving family. His parents were not loving to him. And you see it in the patterns of his children too, and the way that they behave toward him, and even in just the slightest, as somebody who's came from a broken home, abusive father, and you see those things where it's like the kids are still looking for like a hug, and they don't get it, and they just get their back. Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about.
Cold. His son got up there, said all the hateful shit he thought his dad would love, turned around like, yo, what's up, put his arms open, and his dad was just like, so anyway. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty rough, man.
Yeah.
And so you find this, you try to look for something that's going to fill that hole. And it doesn't have to be just a father's love. Like, I mean, we all had our own thing. Now that too, I think we'd all agree that like, it's fairly intrinsic. The addict thing is on some level, I think it's on like a genetic level or a molecular level. Like there's something that's kind of just switched in our brains a little bit differently, but that the environment does exacerbate and or nurture those things. Right. And so like he was trying to fill this hole where he didn't have any love. So he was seeking love and put in its place the adulation of millions of people, or at least the screams, at least. And I'm thinking WWE, and like, what year was that? Was that fucking like, was that in the 90s? I don't even remember that except in sort of,
I feel like early 90s, but I mean, I guess he was mildly famous by writing a book in the 80s. I mean, he was in
thing. I mean, he was sort of, I mean, he was involved with, I mean, he was a bigwig in New York, so he's obviously going to get in front of the camera because he goes to all the big parties and stuff, and he's a mover and a shaker in New York City, so he's going to be, he's going to be exposed to the media. But WWE was his first kind of television experience, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where actually, he played a character. He played this character. I mean, he was famous for being this rich, real estate developer, but he had a big personality even then. He was very charismatic back then. I mean, obviously, he's still a charismatic guy, and that's, so one way or the other. I mean, I've never felt the pull, but a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, I've always, I'll be honest, in 2016 when he got elected, I tried to make lemonade. I really did. I was like, okay, don't just right off the bat, don't judge the guy. You never know. He could be all right. So give him a chance. And I did. You know, the first 18 months or so after Charlotte, I was like, the guy's a sack of shit. You know, like that's it. There's something wrong here. There's something very, very wrong with this picture after Charlotte. And I was right. In fact, I was too right. I wish, you know, in retrospect, that was the biggest, giantest red flag that you could possibly, you know, throw was Charlotte and what happened there, and how the rest of the country would fall in line and some of the other people that would back him so zealotly, you know, or so with such zealotry that I didn't see that coming. But in retrospect, it was a big red flag.
It was a big turd in the lemonade.
Yeah,
turd in the lemonade.
And you know, I was really, you know, like I said, I was really distressed and upset. I'm not anymore. And it's really here's the other thing that I think I want to relate back to sort of the addiction and recovery thing is that the relief kind of feeling that I had. We talk about that, and I've talked about it with both of you guys, and we've talked about the podcast here too. Was that once you get through a certain stage, you know, of sobriety, you have this really, really excellent feeling that you never felt before, which is this, like we were talking about, relief. Like you don't have to jump on this treadmill anymore. You don't have to go through this cycle that just breaks you down over and over again. And it's such a relief not to have to do that anymore. That's kind of the way that I've been feeling the last couple of days, which is since yesterday. I woke up this morning and I felt fucking great. You know, and I'm thinking, why, you know, and first of all, there's just not this other thing, like the election itself, the anxiety of the election itself hanging over my head. But then, you know, just that whole, his regime is out. And that is such a relief on my soul right now.
Yeah.
That, you know, I just feel, you know, it's a really nice feeling. It's a really nice feeling. And it's a really nice feeling knowing that there were enough people out there in this country that felt the same way and did something about it.
Yeah.
That's a great, you know, and yeah, just a major sigh of relief. And I wish that were, you know, I mean, all the other people, there's 70 million people out, and John, we were talking about this. The reason why Donald Trump is so dangerous right now is not only because he's going through these stages of withdrawal, but also because he has 70 million enablers out there that are going through.
Yes.
And so right now is the time to really keep an eye on stuff like, you know, things that are going on around us, because it can be a very dangerous time for not only Donald Trump himself, but the people that, you know, follow.
Yeah, dude.
Every
They're getting weird up here in Oregon. They had a couple of Proud Boy rallies in Salem and shit. And I saw them in Maricopa. You know, everybody saw them in Maricopa. And then fucking Alex Jones shows up looking like a walking thyroid, like fucking just sweating through a fucking vest, like screaming, you know. And I was just like, this is ridiculous, man. This is all too much, you know.
Well, I mean, but there's, like I said, man, there's a lot of people out there that are going through this process of you know, of denial and, you know, and withdrawal, and hopefully they get to a place of acceptance, but it's going to take time, and they, you know, it does, I don't know, you have to cut them a little bit of slack, I think, because, you know, you can't heal wounds until you drag them out and let them air out a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, and what do you think about, like, so we've got these people who have been enabling him, but they have been addicted to something too, right? There's the you know, the cult of personality, or this idea. I mean, we can talk about racism being a sickness and needing to be, you know, looked at and healed over, and, you know, you have to, but they've been addicted to this idea that this person not only speaks for them and has the power, but is going to vindicate their hate, their poison.
Well, and I think it's as much to do with assuaging their fear too. You know, I mean, they sort of, I think they sort of saw Donald Trump and his regime as, you know, as sort of a, I mean, he sort of had this message that, you know, if you don't elect me, then, you know, your homes and your neighborhoods and will be invaded, you know, and the way of life that you know and that you love will never exist anymore. Like these people,
right,
for you. They're coming for your neighborhood. They're coming for your wife. They're coming for your house. Like, that's just, first of all, at some point you have to take a step back. And now that he's not in power, a lot of people, I think, will take a step back from that edge and go, okay. And especially, like, there's going to be, hopefully there's people out there that are willing to give the next guy the chance. At least give him 9 months, give him 18 months, and say, okay, I'm not going to judge him until a year from now. If they come for my guns and they come for my wife and they come for my property, hey, come get it. But if not, then maybe I should rethink this. So hopefully they're willing to take a step back and take a breath and say, maybe they're not going to come after my shit. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, and I don't know, Jerry, if you were like, let's talk about like enabling for a little while here for a second. And, well, so we talk about it, and I'm just trying to kind of bring it back to my own life and to your life. And like, I mean, Jerry, would you say that your wife, like, these are the person who's closest to you, or that you had friends that enabled your drinking? I mean, early on, but even in the later stages? Because I think that's when it got really, really bad.
Are you asking if my wife enabled my drinking?
I'm curious. I'm not to blame her, but
no. I didn't think I'm not taking offense. I'm not like, how dare my fucking wife, dog. No, dude, everybody enabled me to drink. Y'all enabled me to drink. Yes. My parents, my mom. When I was living in Arizona, my mom would drive. We'd go to Costco, and she'd buy me the big fucking bottle of Costco bourbon. Everybody enabled me to drink because it was how we were used to living. It was just business as usual. She's gotten better at her boundaries. My wife has, because now at this point, I think my big problems are like frustration and getting angry and overwhelmed. And she won't enable me in those things anymore. She's just kind of like, yo, you got to work that out, dude. Like, we're not going to have you stomped around this house being pissed at fucking Donald Trump or Mitch McConnell. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, we still live in our own world, Jerry. Like, it's like Mitch McConnell's over here fucking my shit up in my own house, No,
he's not.
So she's gotten really good at her boundaries. I think as I've grown to learn things, she's grown, we're getting old together. We're like learning shit, figuring things out, fucking things up. I'm fucking things up more than she is, but it's been really interesting. But she's gotten way into the news and politics ever since. That's one thing I can say for the Trump administration is that my wife got way more into current events than she's ever been in her entire fucking life. And she knows who these people are, whereas before she's like, I don't care. So like, who?
Right. I think everybody's got a little more civic minded these days.
Right. Civic minded. That's a good word for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, me and John, we've talked about this too, whereas our generation was like that. And I think a lot of younger people are like in our 20s, we never gave a shit about any of this stuff.
No.
Like, none of us ever paid any mind to politics. I don't think I even voted for the first time until I was like 27.
Well, because it was all bullshit, right? I mean, we were all like, who fucking cares? These are rich people. They don't give a fuck about us. Like,
right. And I also don't think that there was anything to lose in some of those elections when we were like in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. There wasn't a whole lot of. I mean, we were safe. We were safe either way.
Yeah.
Is I think the difference between then and now. Like, it's not like the world was gonna take a deep dive into the if George Bush got elected in 2000, say. I mean, everybody was really hot about that election. I remember that one at the time being, and I think I voted in that one even, but it was, like that might have been the first one actually. But like I said, we were kind of safe either way, even though George Bush was kind of an idiot, like, or at least we thought we were safe,
Yeah.
Time. Turns out we weren't, but
there are a lot of brown people overseas who are not safe. But as far as us within our society, I see where you're getting at. We weren't safe. I didn't vote for the first time until Obama. Until I moved to Seattle and registered to vote in Washington State. That was the first time I voted for president.
Yeah, I mean, like our generation just didn't give a shit, and we didn't. Now that we're growing, part of our maturation process is this our expanding consciousness, which involves being more civic minded and looking outside of ourselves and our own little worlds into the broader picture of things. We didn't really do that as a generation very well. Gen Xers didn't until a certain age, that is, until things started to kind of catch up with us, I think. But it's funny. I mean, it's weird, but yeah, and I don't know why. Like I said, I think part of it was because we grew up safe. We didn't have to think about those things until we got to a certain place in our life.
Yeah.
The stakes seemed pretty low at the time, right?
Yeah, like it was kind of like, we've always been in a situation where it was like I was telling you earlier, the turd sandwich versus the giant douche scenario, so it was like whichever one you choose, it didn't really matter. It was kind of like a sort of a toss up or lesser of two evils. But I mean, there's way more at stake in these last couple of elections, I think, and us starting to realize that, I don't think, if it turns out a certain way, I don't think we were safe. Like, I think that it was, the importance of it sort of drove us to kind of be more involved and engaged in the whole process of it from start to finish, but yeah, it's and you're right. I mean, it definitely. I mean, look at the numbers, man. I mean, just the both on both sides of the fence, the numbers are just incredibly. They just shattered all of the previous records for elections. So
yeah,
you're not the ones who have been more engaged and civic minded. I mean, Donald Trump, he turned, hand him his credit, man. He turned out his followers big time.
Yeah. I just think it's a testament to the damage that enabling an addict can do.
This is where it's.
So
I was wondering about the enabling thing. Which path
because
you're
I
take with
I
that
think
shit.
about, like, I mean, I would ask you the same thing too, Coda. Like, I mean, you're the people you're closest to there. I mean, your folks, and this is not to blame anybody, but like, do you think that if your folks had stepped in at some point that might have saved you some pain in the long run, or do you think that you were beyond?
They didn't. Here's the thing: they didn't really have the tools, man. They didn't know how to handle someone like me. I think it was, not to toot my own horn or anything, and I'm not trying to say that like I'm one way or the other, but I think I'm sort of a handful anyway. Especially for the people that know and love me well, or the best. I mean, I think your close friends and family are like that across the board. It doesn't matter who. But it's really hard to, I mean, and they didn't, I think it was just lack of knowledge, lack of education about the whole, because neither one of them have really history with it,
Right.
Even like Jerry's parents, who did have history with it, they don't know how to deal with it either. I mean, you're talking about somebody who's, you're one of your closest relatives. It's really hard, I think, to figure that shit out. And a lot of times it's just easier to enable somebody, than to step in and try to intervene, obviously, especially somebody who's, pretty slick, which I was. I mean, I'm intelligent, I'm slick, I can talk my way out of a lot of shit, I mean,
yeah, man. I
Donald Trump, I mean, he's not the smartest person in the world, but he's really, really slick, dude. And
he's slippery, dude.
And he's conned a lot of people into believing him and believing in him. And, when you're that type of charismatic, you're going to have people that are willing to enable you to the very bitter end, no matter what that is.
It's funny. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you bring up a really good point, and I was talking to my wife about this too, and I'm like, the people's relationship with him and being conned by him, it's like that magic fucking stare that the snake had in the Jungle Book, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I also was like, it's a lot like when your friend is dating someone that's fucking whack, and all your friends know that this person's fucking whack, and you're like, what the fuck that person? Like, what do they see? And I'm like, but those two people don't realize it because they're in their own capsule. Like, they're in their own fucking little mesmerizing snake back and forth. And we're all sitting here being like, why the fuck is John dating that girl?
Yeah, and it's like, and even I knew that it was like, yeah, man, this is probably not good, but I don't want to stop because I'm getting something good out of it. I mean,
exactly.
Same thing with a bottle of fucking whiskey.
Exactly.
Or, like, you just get mesmerized, right? You get fucking. I keep trying to think back and put myself in the mindset before I knew how to get out of it. Mm-hmm. And I have some little flashes of memories of like really bad hangovers that I have. And I'm like, it never occurred to me to quit drinking. I was so hooked in. I was so locked in to drinking. I was so locked into alcoholism that it had such a hold on me that I couldn't see that there was another way out. And so in that, if I put it in that mindset, I can totally understand.
Yeah, you build your own. You build it into your personal mythology. You know what I'm saying? You build it into the story of your life. to your own personal, like all of your you know your sufferings and your triumphs. You build it in there. Alcohol becomes, or whatever substance that, I mean, you build it into your own personal mythology. And I think people do the same thing with other people. That is to say, you know, with their sort of their attachment to people like celebrities, to, you know, the Kim Kardashians or the Kanye Wests or the Donald Trumps or the, you know, whoever, they're the Chers, the Barbara Streisand, whatever your thing is, you know. But you build them into your own personal mythology, and then so even if you know it's wrong, it's almost one of those things where it's also a part of, it's sort of a point of pride where it's if you say, like, you know, that person is an asshole, you know, you have this whole part of your own mythology that you're just having to throw in the trash. And so it's much easier to just go all in on it and to say, you know what, I'm just going to double down. It's sort of the denial thing all over again. You just, you know, it's just like you go all in on it, even though you know it's wrong. A part of you knows it's wrong. You go all in anyway, because you can't just ditch this mythology that you've built. Because it's like trashing, you know, it's like trashing a whole facet of your own personality.
Right.
And so, and it's your ego. It's your fragile alcoholic ego or addict ego. You're like, I can't, because that's all that I am. And it's that whole, it's the myth that alcohol tells you is like, you're nothing without me, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, you're a piece of shit. So you might as well have a drink. I'm all you got. I'm the only thing that's going to make you feel good. So quit fooling yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's what I heard in my brain many times, you know?
Yeah.
So
you need me to be your president. You should thank me for being your president. I mean, I actually, one of the rallies or something, they had this soundbite of him going like, "You are so lucky I'm your president." I'm thinking, oh man, did he really just say that? Like,
yeah.
And that was just that was like a week ago, dude, you know?
That's when he was hot, though, dude. That was part of the addict right there, running hot. That was like the end of his fucking bag, or the bottom of his bottle right there. Was doing tons of rallies, getting up there doing his Trump jazz, do a little free form, fucking feeling the electricity getting hot. He's just like, man. And then on top of all the steroids they're banging through him for COVID and the Adderall he's on, he's just fucking flying, dude. Just,
you know it, man. You know, macho man.
Yeah, dude. You know,
I guess
what I mean?
Not to mention the actual drugs that they're involved in. I mean,
yeah.
Anybody who's had any experience with drugs can tell when somebody is not right. Like, I can't tell you exactly what was going through him, but like you feel it, right? You see it. Yeah. People are a little bit sweaty. I understand it. You're traveling. There's lots of lights. Maybe your diet's bad, but like you're sniffing too much and there's a little bit of sweat coming through the makeup, and like you just, you know what I mean? Like
totally, dude.
Something.
Come on, man. There's no way that guy could have maintained that type of schedule at his age without a little help. You know what I'm saying? Like just
man. Yeah.
I couldn't make it through fucking, you know, Walter's 30th birthday party without a little help.
Oh, you know what I mean. 30th. Why'd you bring that one up? Oh my
God. Anyhow, so I mean, I'm just saying, you know, and we talk about, but like going to any lengths, and I mean that's where I think where a lot of people are at is they're hooked, and so they're like, we got to keep the momentum, we got to keep getting our fix.
We got to double down.
We got to double down.
There's a lot of people out there that aren't going to let it go for a while. I mean, like I said, the thing is though that it is at an end, you know.
Mm-hmm. And so what is the? How do you get to? You found if we're at this rock bottom, and how do you help somebody who's addicted to this find some moment of clarity? Or I mean, how do you talk to somebody who has been addicted to this for so long, who has it, you know what I mean? Like, do they need to feel, I mean, is this it? You need to feel the withdrawal, you need to feel the loss, you need to find that rock bottom if you're ever going to fucking dig your way out?
Well, they're going to ask you for help. That's what I'm wondering is like, you know, in this parable, you're saying, is this person asking you for help, or are we just straight driving to the Holiday Inn, meet him up in a conference room and being like, you know, the reason why we're here today is a whole bunch of people love you very much, you know, like, you know.
I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a lot of people in my life close to me that are supporters of his. my cousin. But
like
we don't
people.
really, I don't really, I've quit engaging, especially online, because it just stopped. It didn't seem like it was helping anything. So I just stopped.
Yeah.
I just quit because somebody would post something and then there'd be this huge thread of comments of people fighting. And I think I interjected a couple times, and then I realized I'm not helping here. Nobody's listening to anything. And I just quit engaging. And it's just
I don't know, John. I sort of like Jerry's scenario where it's like, it's almost like somebody has to kind of, if somebody cracks the door open, then it's one of those, then we've talked about it before, you have the conversation, which is, and it's legit conversation. You can just say, hey, look, man, I remember 4 years ago, the feeling, what you're going through right now. I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to take this loss that you're taking right now. I know what it feels like when your guy doesn't win and you feel like it's the end of, a lot of things, a lot of good things. And you feel like there's this, this yawning void in front of you. But, here's what I did. Here's how I would just say, I gave the guy a chance and that's what I did. And I did it with, and I went into it with an open mind and an open heart, and it didn't work out, and so I voted, the way I voted, and I stumped for, I did what I did in this last cycle, and it turned out the way that I wanted. So I know what you feel. I know how it feels, but here's the thing, you just you try to, I don't know, like I said, it almost has to come from them, first. Like any conversation with an alcoholic would. You can't sit and explain to somebody why their support for Donald Trump was wrong. They're never going to hear it. And you can't debate somebody into thinking your way. It's just not going to happen. But if they open the door, then you can say, this is how I feel and this is what I did. And maybe try and, if you look at it this way, this is how I look at things now. So, and that's it. Then let them run with it.
It kind of reminds me. Go ahead.
No, and just wish them luck and let them go. And once again, like we would all say, like, hey, if you need some more help, or if you give me a call, or if you want to look at some AOC videos or something sometime.
Coda's got a big crush on AOC, so
AOC's fine as hell, dude.
Oh, come on now.
And she's smart, and she's a fucking bartender. She knows.
I know, that's what I was saying too. I was like, hey, all right, yeah.
Coda's like, yo,
she's so much.
Can you see Coda in like 2012 trying to swoop AOC in Seattle, just being like, yo, I work down at the People's Pub,
Why don't you come see me sometime?
Why don't you come down after hours?
Get you fucking codependent,
Our boy's having the 30th birthday party at the
down in the grotto, in the
the grotto, dude.
Cavern.
The Sunset Cavern. That's right. It reminds me of me going to like my first AA meeting. Like my head hurt. I knew that what I had been doing was not going to work anymore. I was in pain. I was feeling sad. I was feeling hurt. I was feeling dejected. I really felt like I had nothing else left. Yeah. And I went in here, and I remember I didn't walk in and go like, oh, I finally arrived. And, I didn't fall into this like group hug and everything was going to be okay. I really fucking hated those people, and I didn't belong there. You know what I mean? Like that's
exactly what you mean. I kind of still feel that.
And I was just like, man, and I had a huge resentment toward these people who were so willing to help and so kind, and like, here's my business card, and here's a card, with with the phone numbers on it and all this stuff. And it's like, fuck these people. I don't belong here. And, it took me I had to want to change. I had to want to try and see things even remotely differently to be able to better myself and to, and like I told you too about finding my higher self, because I said at the top of the show, I'm really frustrated and angry, and I got a lot of like, I am not interested in, there's a part of me, there's a very small, petty part of me that's not interested in working with others as far as, you know, Trump supporters go and that kind of stuff. And I have a lot of awful things I could say. Jerry, I'm sure you've got a few choice words, but, you know, my higher self wants to say, I forgive you to him and his supporters, wants to say, you're in pain and you're hurting, and I understand that. Now, you've hurt a lot of people, and your level of power and has caused destruction and strife in so many people's lives in so many different ways, like that it's pretty inexcusable, your behaviors, right? And that's when we separate the behavior from the person.
Yeah.
Behaviors are fucking unacceptable, and consequences will come down, right? We've all had, I mean, I know that Jerry and I have not been through the legal system, but you, Coda, you have seen the consequences of your actions in a very severe way.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we were talking about earlier too that I kind of wanted to bring up is that the way that the president is reacting to this whole mess, what he's saying, actually, I think really could, if he's not careful, both him and his sons, it could end up with some legal consequences. Because, I mean, we do still have some laws in this country about sedition, and the penalties are pretty stiff for that sort of thing. I mean, and you know, if what you're saying and things that you're saying, especially if you are in power or in government or in leadership positions, if you get people killed by what you say, there are consequences, you know, and not just moral ones either, like actual, like, go to jail and get butt fucked consequences.
Jesus, yeah. But
like the mom from Full House, like Aunt Becky,
right? But Jerry, you didn't face any legal consequences for anything. You were very
just graffiti stuff, dude. But I mean, that was the '90s, dude. Shit was wild, you know.
Yeah.
And even that wasn't really hardcore legal con. It was like unsupervised probation. Do you know what I mean? But no, not for my drinking. I could have. We absolutely could have very many times, but I guess I was slippery myself, maybe. I don't know. Or lucky.
No, you just never got your driver's license, buddy. That's what
exactly. Yeah. I got my driver's license. Yeah. I'd have been like
very savvy, very smart, by the way.
Riding fucking dirty all day. Just I would have. Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's just this, so it's so bizarre to see it on such a large, like, big public spectacle, and to see, like, the withdrawal syndrome, the symptoms, I should say, that are going on right now. Not just because what is it? Denial, rage. I don't know. What are the 5 stages of
grief?
Grief.
Grieving.
It's grief. Yeah. It's what are they? I mean, it's like anger, depression. There's one that they call bargaining.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Denial is like right away. Denial, rage, depression, bargaining, and then there's one other.
Acceptance. Or is
acceptance is the end one. Acceptance is at the very end. I think there's.
I don't know if this man will ever learn acceptance.
I can't remember the. I think it's depression and then.
Yes, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance.
Okay.
We're in the anger section still, I think.
Right. Yeah, we might be missing 1 or 2 in there, but yeah, something like that. But also, I mean, I don't know, man. I just think that shit, I lost my train of thought.
Well,
I lost it.
I just keep trying to bring it back to my own experience, right? And the fact that it really, I had to go through all of those things in my first year of sobriety.
Yeah.
I mean, I would reach out to Jerry, but I didn't really have, and I was pretty sad for most of it. I mean, there were some good days, and I know that I would start going to meetings, and I would text Jerry like every Sunday. I'd be like, one day at a time.
Yeah,
you know,
dude.
like, buddy,
because I would like hot with it.
Because I would start to feel good, right? But I was really sad, you know.
I know.
But it's just, you know, but I was like, I'd feel a little bit of that magic. I'd be like, dude, I had a great meeting, man. ODAT, or you know, like, it was stupid and corny, but like I felt good. And it took a long time for me to accept, like, this is who I am and this is how it is. And like Jerry says, I don't know that I can't foresee a future where this man accepts it.
Right.
I don't see it either. But I mean, I think it is. What I remember my thought now, which is looking at it from this perspective, looking at it from a perspective of because you and I were talking about this, and it's really hard for me to understand where people on the other side are coming from. But once I started looking at it from a standpoint of like, well, Donald Trump has an addiction, and it's a very bad one, and it's one that's being enabled by a lot of other people, and everyone around him is pretty much codependent upon him and with him in his addiction. Like in his inner circle are super bad codependents, and even like you were saying, his wife and his children are in this weird transactional relationship with him, and that's kind of all he knows how to interact with other people is this transactional way.
Transactional.
Really, yeah. I mean, if you mark my words here, man, Melania Trump will be gone from his life within 18 months from now. That's part of her deal expired with him the moment he lost the presidency. So
dude,
whatever transaction worked out, she is out. I tell you right now, watch.
Dude, yeah.
Like she's moving back to New York City, and she's like what was that show, Green Acres?
Yeah,
like, Acres is the place for me.
Yeah.
She's like, New York's the place I want to be. Like, you watch. She's gonna be like, later, Green Acres, I'm out. New York, here I come. But anyway, like I said. But when I looked at it from a perspective of the addiction thing, it's a lot easier to understand where he's at and where a lot of his support is at, and for me that makes it a little easier to understand kind of where we are at as a country with it. And so and you look at some of the things that you want to see happen as far as a healing process or an acceptance process. Look no further than some of our own examples in our own lives of how we've dealt with things that like loss and like addiction and grief, and things like that, and what kind of process you have to go through in order to not just get through it, but perhaps even change your perspective on it. Like, I know that I don't think about some of the same things as before going through a recovery process as I did beforehand. I mean, I see things a lot differently. I feel like I'm a much more conscientious person. I'm a much kinder person for some of these horrible things that I've gone through, and
yeah,
that's what you want to kind of see with Donald Trump. I like you said, John, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's too far gone, but in that case, that is what it is, man. All you can do is just say, hey, I mean, I don't even really hope the best for him either, John. There's a part of me that says, I mean, really, what the damage that he's done, if he's not willing to at least make a concession and say I lost, and at least willing to make these, and at least stop talking shit that's going to get people killed, like, then I have no time for him. I have, he's gone, he's dead, to me, or whatever, or, he doesn't deserve the kind of, he hasn't shown me that he merits any kind of forgiveness or, repentance or,
right. Yeah.
He doesn't merit that yet. He hasn't come to the place where he can accept what's wrong with him. Until he does, he doesn't deserve, any consideration that way. And all the news outlets are saying, well, you just have to let the president go through his process. He will accept it. He just has to go through his process. They're all trying to coddle him through it. And I'm like, you know what?
Fucking baby. Yeah.
Yeah. And second of all, fuck, like the mayor of Philadelphia said, time to put on your big boy pants and act like a man for once,
Take the fucking L, dude. You got smoked. Take the fucking L. Jesus.
How
many L's have I taken in my fucking life? And I took it like a boy, like a big boy, like a grown up.
Well, that's maybe not the thing. The Donald Trump has every L that he's ever taken in his life, he's gone upwards from it. And this is the one time that he's not. He's not gonna pull a win out of this catastrophic failure.
Like the end of the podcast where we just get fucking mean. Like we're doing the whole beginning trying to be understanding recovery people. By the end, I'm just like, yo, you know what, Donnie? Suck fucking 8,000 dicks.
Yeah, man.
I guess that. And then just everybody turning it off right now, being like, "Oh,
click." Okay, where did the? So let me try, and let me rephrase this a little bit or reframe it or whatever, because basically I agree with both of you. Now, I was working with somebody through helping them with their fourth step. And they were like, well, what do you mean? Like, who do I put it down? And I said, basically, we're just trying to figure out some patterns in your life and what's going on with you. And I said, resentments. I said, anything at all. Do you resent me for making you do this? Do you resent Donald Trump? And I was like, that's one thing that I was like, okay, so what's the deal with resentment? Is the resentment that I have with Donald Trump, it's kind of like yelling at traffic in your car. Nobody's getting to hear it except for you in the fucking car and whoever's in there with you.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to hold it there forever. I certainly have, and still, again, we're talking about trying to find my highest self, and I'm not there. But if I want to release that resentment for Donald Trump, I have to release it. I have to forgive him. I have to move on. I have to, my sponsor said to me, oh, if you've got a problem with somebody, I need you to pray for them for 2 weeks. Now, I'm not asking anyone to pray for Donald Trump.
No, I had a sponsor do that to me too. That's why I'm relating right now.
And he said, okay, did you do it for 2 weeks? I said, yes. He said, do you still feel resentment? And I said, yeah. And he's like, I need you to do it for another 2 weeks.
God damn. I got pray for you too, dog.
But here's the thing. It eventually worked.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that everyone should pray for Donald Trump. I'm not trying to put that hashtag out into the world. But at some point for me, I'm going to want to be rid of it completely because I've been living under the fucking thumb, the invisible thumb of his name and his voice for the last 4 or 5 years. And the other day when I got to go out for a run and I almost like shed a tear because it was like, oh my God, maybe it was just me, and I think it was, but people just seemed happier. And even like last night at work, like people are out and people are laughing, and there was somebody.
Half of them, John. Half of them are happier.
Well, I live in California, so
most of them are happier. I'm in Oregon. Well, I'm in Eugene, so right? Yeah, same. Yeah.
So I mean, it's. I'm hoping that at some point I can, because I don't want to live with it, and I'm certainly not here to say like, well, we won, fuckers. At least, because it's bigger and deeper, and my life is bigger than whoever the president is ultimately.
Well, and honestly, listen, socially, I just got to interject this.
Please.
What did we win? We won back whatever this weird thing that Trump is doing, but like it's almost like we're running into a room that's on fire and being like, we got the room that's on fire, fuck yeah, because now we got to fix all this shit. Like we won this order house.
Here's the thing: the guy with the matches and the gasoline is no longer in the room now. Jared.
Exactly.
We can put the fire out.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, we get to put the fire out.
The hospital analogy, like, yeah, the hospital, the room's all fucked up, but at least the horse is out of the room.
I see it now. I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But I still sometimes do feel like, damn, we won this giant mess.
There's lots of people.
I won chores.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I won chores. But that's part of it too, right? That's part of recovery. And because I was thinking about today, and I was trying to come up, I had a couple of different topics, and one of the things that I've been struggling with is like I really want to like keep up on this and this and this. And I'm always feeling like I'm falling behind. So then I always feel like a failure, and I always feel like shit because I didn't get enough exercise, or I didn't do enough spiritual work, or I didn't do enough of this. And it's like, fuck, man, I just want to take a break. And I think that's okay too, right? Like that's got to be okay. To just fucking not have to work on myself or the world or anything for a little while. And I think that's part of the relief that I felt the other day. Friday. It was Friday, right?
Well, Saturday, it was pretty clear. It was pretty clear by Friday. I mean, I started feeling better. Like I said, Wednesday morning, I woke up and I was like really, really despairing. And then as the week went on, like by the end of that day, I was like, wait, hold the phone. And then by Thursday, I was like, Friday afternoon came around and I was like glued to the television, like, is it gonna? But then, yesterday morning when they called it, just like, fuck yeah. It's over.
Yeah, I was reading somebody on Twitter comparing it to having sex on coke. Like you're just like, I'm gonna get there eventually. I'm almost fucking there. I'm almost fucking there. And I'm like, man, I wish they just call it. I'm up there. But then, yeah, I don't know, man. I just, yeah. By Friday night, I was like, something's happening, Megan. Something's gonna happen. You know.
I mean, it was, and everything that I'm reading and stuff too. I'm just like watching these numbers, and I'm going, yeah, this is gonna happen, man. This is gonna happen. Like.
I had John text me links of 538 because I was in a fucking tailspin, like this emotional something that in what way does it affect me also, like in a micro sense. In a macro sense it affects me, but in this micro sense I'm getting all bent out of shape about this shit that like I already did my part. Why? And so John's like, yo, we got this, homie. Here's 538. Trust the polls. And of course the polls were not fucking very right, but still it was a comfort. It was a comfort. I had John being like my political fucking seatbelt. He's like, calm down, Jerry.
Yeah. Well, and the 538 people, they were looking at the data too, and the data trends and statistical stuff. That's not just polls. That's like actual numbers.
Right.
That's real numbers, not fantasy numbers. So, yeah, I was watching all that shit too. But I mean, yeah, man.
And now we're in our fucking 40s talking about elections and politics and shit, man. It's fucking sad, dude. 25-year-old me would have been like, yo, dude.
Well, not only that, man. We're talking about politics in the sense of like, relating it back to sobriety and addiction. Right. I mean, in any other stretch or any other era, this would be a real stretch of a conversation.
Right.
Between us three, yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm looking at it from the whole vista, going like, this is so weird for three dudes in their fucking 40s. I mean, us three in our 40s. Congratulations, by the way, for all of us making it to our 40s, man. I think we did pretty good,
I want to congratulate us for coming out on the right side of this too, man. Like I'm super, like I said too, I'm ecstatic, man. I mean, you're right, Jerry. In a macro sense, there's a lot more at stake though. In a micro sense, this doesn't do shit for my life, really.
Right.
I mean, I've still got to do the other things that I've got to do.
I still got to pack. I still got to finish this painting. I still got to do this shit. Get ready to leave. Yeah.
Well, maybe get that stimulus check going. Let's go, guys. I need another check for 2021.
Here's the thing about that though too.
Tell me.
I mean, DT he can go about these last 75 days in office, two ways. He can be a real, he's shown himself to be a very vindictive, grudge holding kind of guy. So my expectation is that ain't shit gonna happen for the next, he may even hold the stimulus back just to spite the people who voted for him. For him in this election. One of the things about the Citizen Kane type character is that they only want love. They never give love. The one major flaw of Charles Kane in that movie is that all he wants from the people around him and everybody in America basically is all he does is want their love and take their love, and he never gives anything back to his friends, to his best friend, his business partner, his lovers, his women, his wives. That's the one thing is Donald Trump never gives it back, man. So you watch and see. But if he does, it'll be a sign that there may be hope for him, because that will be thinking of someone other than himself through this process. If he does get a stimulus package, take that as a sign that he may be willing to actually sit down and have the maybe at some point he will write the fearless and
searching moral inventory.
I'll just mail big books to the fucking White House.
Isn't that a trip that he doesn't drink?
Well, that's what he says.
No, I don't think he touches it. He actually he does not strike me as somebody who's a drinker. However, his son Don Jr. on the other hand may need a big book. Somebody needs to send him. I've seen a couple of interviews.
Does drinking fuck up the Adderall? I wonder if drinking makes the Adderall not work.
I don't know, man, but there's
I found it to be quite a nice combination myself.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know if I've ever mixed that one up particularly, but
well, you never lived with Danny, so
DK.
I've told the story on here before about how he was out of town one time and I was drunk out of my mind in the apartment by myself. And I was like, dude, he's got to have some fucking Adderall around here. And so I was combing the carpet in his bedroom looking for little pink pills, drunk out of my mind. Yeah, I'm not proud, but I found one in the roller of the track of the dresser, or the closet. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, fucking thought I had found fucking Solomon's mine, you know?
Dude.
But
fucking party time.
Let me ask you.
I mean, was it good or?
It was great. Yes, it was. No, it was.
Dude,
I'm telling
come
you,
on,
like
dude.
the Adderall gives you that nice clean buzz that you need to drink for another fucking 6 hours. And I was doing this at like 5 o'clock in the morning. It was fucking hell. I mean,
Dude.
it was hell. I'm just
Gotcha.
those were my weekends back then. When if there was nobody around or anything, I would drink until 5 or 6 in the morning, be hungover all day, do that for a couple days, and then go back to work at the coffee shop. I mean, it wasn't happy, but I mean,
you pick up that little pink pill and "Sunshine of My Love" starts playing in the background. You're like, I fucking did it, dude. Dun 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 dun.
So, I wanted to ask you, Jerry, because I don't say this. You tend to be the more cynical of us.
Oh, of course. That's why when you were texting me one day at a time, I was like, what the fuck is John doing? But also, I had love in my heart. I was just like,
yes,
what the?
I know.
Yes. A lot of our conversations.
How do you feel now? I mean, do you feel
skeptical?
Yeah.
Very skeptical. Optimistically skeptical. I feel relieved, but I'm like, what's around the corner? We got 2 months. And also, Biden's not going to solve everything. Biden is fucking status quo, dude. I mean, he hired on Kamala, and she's a fucking cop. So I'm like, we'll see. I mean, in all honesty, skeptical, but optimistically skeptical, because I feel like if we're talking politics, I feel like Biden you can mold him. You can kind of sway him. Trump, you couldn't sway. Trump just did Trump shit. Biden, I feel like you kind of give him a little nudges, but we'll see. I feel skeptical, but optimistic. I've been relieved, very relieved.
Very relieved. I didn't feel like drinking this entire week.
Me neither.
I really didn't.
No, I didn't either, man. That is one good thing. I did feel like cigarettes, but yeah.
Could you imagine being drunk during all this?
I probably just wouldn't give a fuck. I'd be like, yeah, bring it on. I'd probably have a Trump Pence flag outside my house if I were drunk.
Yeah, wouldn't you?
Yeah, just to be contrary.
It would just turn into a bottomless bender, though, is the thing.
Yeah.
Like, the way that I was feeling about the whole thing, it would have been one of those like off the rails kind of thing, and it just would have been, it would have been stupid and totally counterproductive.
Yeah.
And the other thing was too that I think that, I mean, there's probably a part of my mind that was like, dude, you wouldn't enjoy the drunk anyway. You would just be sad and stupid, and like that's just, I mean. I was the type, and you guys probably can back me up on this anyway too, but I much more enjoyed drinking and getting wasted when things were like in a celebratory kind of, thing. So at the end of it, I would have been really, really happy drunk boy, but I mean, the whole process would have been just sloppy and weird. And I don't know, I just don't, I'm not feeling that these days anymore, man. I just, the further it gets behind me, the more the more I see it for what it was,
Yeah.
Not worth it.
And not having to drink for the last, I mean, however many years, I mean, we're looking at 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, like the whole Trump presidency. I mean, Jesus. I mean, I don't know. So I just want to end it on a happy note that there's a lot of relief here, and I think that it frees up space in my head for other things.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really important. And it also just a reminder to people out there about watch yourself for enabling behavior. I have to do it too with people. I mean, I still have people in my life that drink, and people I know and people I care about and stuff like that. And people who are, Trump supporters too. And it's like, it doesn't help to make anyone feel shitty about this kind of stuff. So
you're right.
As much as we may want to feel vindictive, it never feels good in the end.
No, it goes back to what I said on the other end of this too, which is I remember 4 years ago, and I used to, at the time in 2016, I would go to the bar a lot, and that bar was hardcore ruby red working class bar, man, and those guys were such dicks about Trump winning in 2016. I would never be like that. I would never do that because I remember how that felt. I remember how that felt being on the other side of it, and it was a terrible feeling. And it was and I always thought, these guys are these guys, they're doing what they're doing. But it was kind of like, what assholes, and just like I don't want to be that guy. I would never be that guy anyway. So
it's not good.
Yeah.
Right on. Well,
time to move beyond all that anyway.
It really is.
Try to find that higher self, too, and try to be that,
Go call John. John will help you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm gonna find it, but anyhow, I like looking for it better than I like looking for my lower self. Better than I like looking for the fucking Adderall in the carpet of my roommate's
combing
apartment.
through the carpet, dude, like a crackhead. I love it.
So, well, Coda, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks guys. I mean, it was a good conversation. When we started it off earlier, I thought it would be a good relevant one too, just to relate it all back to it. Because like I said, it's a real thing, man. It's a real thing. Addiction to celebrity, addiction to fame is a real thing.
Absolutely.
And it's a scary thing, And I feel for those people. I feel for them.
Yeah. Right
anyway,
on.
Cheers, boys.
Take care of yourself.
Thanks again for listening. Our music is always by Neglect. You can find more of his stuff at neglect.bandcamp.com.
And you can find us on all social media platforms that matter. Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can reach us at aisforalcoholic@gmail.com.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.